Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and this is Wednesday, February the 20th, and this will be our chart lesson for today. And all I can say about today is, this is what we live for every day, and it doesn't get any easier than it was today. To be honest with you, there was a little bit of question when we noticed. Remember me talking about this breakout yesterday that we never really came back and tested this area. Well, that's what it looked like was going to happen here to this point. You can see, so, you know, you might have been looking for a reversal in here. I was expecting that we possibly might get a reversal here, but remember, look at this trend channel. There's been, even though we've overshot it a couple of times a little bit, we've never had a break until right here. And then what usually happens, especially on a trend that's this obvious, you're going to have a retest. Well, that changed when we actually, this is when the FOMC news came out today. And you better be aware of this kind of news, because things like what happened today, the Fed said something that sparked the dollar, and the dollar rallied like crazy. And in return, everything else is just getting demolished today. That includes the indexes, the oil, gold, silver, anything that trades fairly, for the most part, inverse to the dollar is getting killed today. And that's what happens when you get a rally like that in the dollar. Everything else sells off because they kind of trade inverse. And so all the other world currencies are getting crushed today by the dollar, because obviously the FOMC said, I haven't looked at it, I haven't read it, I don't really care what they said, but they said something that the dollar, that, currency traders liked, and, whether they're hinting around that they may raise rates or stop buying bonds or whatever it is they're saying, it doesn't matter. All we care is what's happening. And you can see it actually rallied right there when the news came off, but this just goes to show you that the price action's king. And there's no trend until there's a trend line break. You better be paying attention to price action, and you could have entered here or here and caught this move down. And look at that move. And I'll be honest with you, my last trade was right here, and I exited right here. So I didn't get any of this, but I made plenty of money from here on down, and you should have been able to do so too. And really, you could have bought both of these two overshoots and made money. You really could have bought this one. But I just don't recommend buying these things. You might have been more tempted to buy these because, look, that's the last support area. We're looking for prices to come back and retest this area after they break out. And generally, when you get a couple of retests, and that was another reason this rocketed up, but this was right at the news too. So, and then look what happens, boom, and off it goes to the downside. So, and it still took a little bit of time to work through there, because this was an important area right here, this 1520 to 1522 area that we've talked about a few times in some of the last videos. But anyway, that's enough about that. The one thing I always tell people is, don't be guessing. Just go with the flow. Don't be biased. Don't let outside things influence you. I got at least 2 emails today. One guy saying that, talking to other people, they talked him out of a good trade. Another guy telling me, hey, there's strong support here. We're looking for a reversal, possibly. And I had a third guy saying that he was looking to buy the lows. And I mean, even though you could have done that and made money here, I just don't recommend it, because you need to be thinking short until we get a trend line. This was the very first break of the trend line, and that's not much of one. Now we've really well overdone it. So will we keep going lower? I don't know. But as long as the dollar goes up, probably so. But the really sad thing is we used to get a lot of moves like this to the up and the downside in the ES almost every day, and we just don't get many opportunities like this anymore. So when you get one, you need to take advantage of it. Again, I wish I would have hung around and traded a little more and got some more of this myself. But, you can't look back and say woulda, shoulda. You just got to do it. And, I already surpassed my target today by a large amount because of these couple of trades down through here. So hopefully you got that opportunity as well. And But anyway, let's talk about the trades. When the market originally opened this morning, we were in this tight trading range. So at this point, you don't know this big trend's coming. All you know at this point, around 7 o'clock this morning, is that we're in a trading range, and so you got to go with with trading range rules. And I wouldn't have been looking long here until this trap. And notice what we got here. We got a new low. Prices are moving now. We got a failed breakout and a new low, but there's no setup to go long. And then we try to go short again, and then we try to go short a second time. That's a second entry short right there, but you don't want to be going short right down here. It's strong support in a trading range, because what happens? Prices snap back. So when you got that failed second entry short, that's a trap. It turned down and went lower below that bar first and then turned up. And so you could have gone along right there, and it was just enough to scalp out. I really thought we'd probably come back up here, but you scalp out, your stop goes to break even, and you get stopped out on any runners. So no runners there. And this reverses. I didn't think it was worth going short right there, because of what happens. Prices snap back, and look, it broke lower and snapped back again. And then it turns down. But again, you're going short right where all this stuff is. Even though it would have worked, and this is a second entry short, you're better off to wait for a little bit better entry. Wait for a breakout pullback short, which guess what comes right here. Notice that we finally went lower, we pulled back, and now we're testing that strong support area across there. And look at that reversal bar. You got those matching highs. It ticks one tick higher and turns down. Great place to go short right there. Unfortunately, no runners again, because the market's still choppy. People are still thinking range time, and really by this time, you might have considered this even moved down some. But this was still for the trading day, this was still the range right here, the lows of the day. So notice that, because there's your day break, and actually that was the lows from Friday across there. So we've tested this once, and then prices bounce back. And I drew this in green because this is a breakout pullback short, and we didn't quite, the trend line you're thinking is, and it's somewhere right across here, or you got to at least have this line drawn off this high or the close or somewhere in there. And originally I had it drawn off the close, but I actually think it was a little bit higher than that, because later after we got these two lows, then you can, test it off that, and that puts it right there, and you can see that fit perfectly the rest of the way down. So, keep paying attention to your trend lines and so forth, and put that back. But anyway, I drew this one in green because we didn't quite get back to a possible trend line. And this was the first test of that breakout area. Notice that we never really got below it or closed below it right there. We kind of tested a little bit over here, but not really. It's more of a trading range. And so you didn't want to go short there really, and you definitely didn't want to go long here, because even though you do have two legs back, there's not a very good setup bar, and by the time you get here, you're too far close back up here to the resistance possible. This, we got to be thinking this is either going to act as resistance like this and turn it down, or we're going to get back inside it and it'll act like support again. Well, guess what? It acted as resistance. That's a little more aggressive trade. It's a breakout pullback short, but it's a viable trade. There's nothing wrong with taking it. Other than the fact that it is a little aggressive, because we weren't back to a trend line or a proven yet. This is not yet a proven resistance area because it's been support, but it did hold as resistance. So more aggressive trader probably would have taken that. And there's you an easy move down. Unfortunately, no runners. Prices pull right back, and guess what? We test this trend line. This is a second test of that area. Notice how nothing closes up there. It turns down. Nice place to go short right there if you want to go short on that. It's a second entry. On top of that, there's one leg, pull back second leg. So it's a second entry short. It's a retest of the breakout. It's a double top. Lots of reasons to be thinking short there. Again, easy scalp for the most part, but guess what? No runner. It comes right back, and that's all this was a pullback. But now look what you got. You got a first entry, this is counting off the new high, pull back, first entry, pull back, second entry, and it failed. So if we go lower from there, the odds are we're coming down and testing the trend channel again. So great place to go short. And guess what? This time, any of your runners are easily safe. And so you can ride this. You could still be riding this for that matter. Generally what I do is exit where I figure I'm supposed to exit, where the bounce is going to come. And then I look for a new entry. And on this one, once we went into this overlap, I started pulling my stop down. I put it above there first, then I put it above those two, and then I put it above those, and I got stopped out right there. It pulls on back, it turns down. This is not really a good entry, so I did not mark it. It's really, that's too bullish with a overshoot, a couple of different overshoots there. It was tempting really to go long right here, and if you might have dropped a limit order there or there, and if you did, it was an easy trade. Even if you went above that, it was an easy trade. But it's just risky going long because you don't know that it's not going to, you know, bounce a tick or two like this and then turn down again. And that's really what did. It just bounced a couple of bars really and then turned down. But I don't like that setup for a short because it's too close to these lows. And you really got to expect that you're going to come back up here off the trend channel line or the trend line, and that's where you're going to find your best entries, as you can see over here and here. And but this was a good entry, and these are the kind that will cause you to make mistakes because you see this happen and it takes off without you, and then it comes back, and then this time you get in, and guess what? It bounces up again, and then you get in, and it bounces again and gets choppy, and so it just by worrying about missing that, it causes you to make a mistake over here. But notice that we also had an overshoot, and you actually could have gone long there, but again, it's just too aggressive. So we're looking for shorts. So guess what? We finally get back up here. We get this little double top matching highs here. We break out of it to the low side. It fails. It turns up and breaks out the high side and fails. And generally the bias is when you go into a little congestion, that it, you know, when it breaks, when it continues trending again, it's probably going to be with a trend. Notice how it hit that trend line to the tick, turns down. So even though those are dojis, you could have gone short right there or even right there because that's a really bearish bar. So if you didn't go there, which you probably should have, you could have gone short here, even though that low is pretty close. The original low is way down here, and you got plenty of room. And it did take it a few minutes to work on down, but so again, you would have scalped out of this, but no runners. But when it comes back up there and tests the line again and tests the high, the breakout area to the tick and turns down, you got to go short right there. And you just get back in it. There's still plenty of room to get out before these lows right here. So you got to get back with it. And again, you know, I exited right here off my trade, and it went a little bit lower. You could have got a couple of more ticks out of it. But if you don't exit here, then just start putting your stop above each bar. Or wait. Usually what I like to do is wait till you got at least 2 bars to put your stop below, like I was showing you over here. Once you get these matching highs, then these matching highs, and then these matching highs. And you would have had a couple here. So you wait for, you know, you get a couple of bars or whatever, and that generally will give you a better exit. And so, but anyway, another short chance to exit right here, and then it just turned down again. It didn't go much further, and then look at that bounce. Comes right back up, test the trend line. That's only one leg, though, and that's very bullish. So again, that's when you probably want to wait on a second entry, and by being smart, and then there's your look, you notice you also got a test of this high again. So now you kind of got another range here, and you get that big bullish or bearish bar, so you go short right there. Again, another easy scalp, and but it pulls back and gets the any runners, and so you couldn't have entered again until right here. And notice you wouldn't want to enter in here. It's too close to this low where you keep bouncing. Lots of overlap, dojis and things, but then finally it breaks lower and pulls back. And look at that kind of reversal bar. And really your lows were right there at the time. Maybe that's where you seem to get the most touches, right there. And notice that touches it to the tick, coming back, and nice chance to, actually there was a failed second entry long there, so you really could have entered here, but because of all that overlap, and this is so close to these lows, it probably was better to wait until that failed, till that you got that little last trap there. Notice how that ticked. Make sure you can see that. Notice how that ticked one tick higher and then turned down. That was where I would have gone short, and you could have ridden this all night. Of course, I was already done by this time. I didn't take this trade, but it's still a good setup, and you could still be short for that matter. I do see some final little pushes down here, and we are way overdone, so it wouldn't surprise me if we don't reverse soon. But if the dollar keeps rallying, we could keep going lower. So we'll just have to see what happens. But again, these are the kind of days you live for, and when you find them, you just got to trust it and enter every time it comes back until you get a break. And now we got a break of the trend line here, and definitely enough to consider a new low. But we could end up with just a bigger channel or something like that right there, and maybe that's the overshoot. So that could be it. So we may come back up here and hit this trend channel line and sell off again, or make another leg down. So we just have to see. But there's not much time left in the day, so we're going to end down considerably today. In my best guesstimate, with 35 minutes left till the market close, I would be shocked if we take all this back. But just as much, it wouldn't surprise me if we didn't end up closing back up here somewhere and taking a lot of it back. So, but I hope you had a good trading day. I hope you recognize today and what was going on, and that you didn't get tricked and you stayed with the shorts. If you followed the rules, you shouldn't have gotten tricked today, even during the news period. But so that's another great example of why I keep up with the news, and you don't want to be stuck in the market. You don't want to be taking a short right in here just as news is coming out that causes it to rally. But if you just watch the price action, it would have told you everything you need to know, because you should have known to be looking to exit down here, and you should have been known to be looking for another entry back up here. And I don't know any other way to put that. So follow the rules. That's the key. And don't be biased. Don't let outside things influence you. Don't be guessing that you're going to get a bounce just because you get strong support, because sometimes you work through strong support. And what are some clues that this was strong support? I mean, that we were going to go lower here? While it's not 100%, notice that we're making each one of these highs is lower and each one of these lows is lower. Even though they're only a tick or two or a few ticks, this is still making lower lows and lower highs. And that means the sellers are still in control, and the buyers don't have control yet. And until we start making higher highs and higher lows, the sellers are still in charge. And so you got to be thinking sell, and especially if there's been no trend line break, and especially on a move that clear of a downtrend, you're just about always going to get a trend line break and then a retest before you get a huge rally. Now sometimes you'll get an overshoot like this, but those are not huge overshoots. They're overshoots, and you get a reversal and you take out of it, and that could have happened. But until you see this market making higher highs and higher lows, you still better be thinking short. So hopefully that makes sense to those of you that were sending me emails and asking me about it. So hopefully that's clear. But I'm going to wrap it up. Hope you had a good trading day, and if not, we'll work on it again tomorrow. But I'm going to be out of here. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you tomorrow.